Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Capsule. Never stop doing that. It's a little capsule, like space, AstroPub space capsule. A little tiny little portion, a little pill for you to swallow, easier pill to swallow, of my Office Hours live stream that we do on Thursdays at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think it was a little early today, but it'll probably do. I enjoyed doing this early, so we'll see. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, YouTube.com/TheAstroPub live. If you want to come join us live, we talk about all of the latest news. When ISCs happen, we watch them, or we do a watch along with them. We go through all of the information and try to kind of gather as much information. And, you know, if you want to ask questions about lore or any of the news, just kind of hang out and chill and talk and think. You see chat here. They're hanging out and chilling. They're going to tell you it's not live because they're jerks, and that's how chat works. But for now, we're going to cover the Squadron 42 monthly report. Now, this is a full read-through. We're going to look through the full text of the Squadron 42 monthly report for June. And if you enjoy this kind of content, if you've watched these in the past and you're watching this again, or you like the idea of going through all of it, having kind of an audiobook form of it, make sure you are liking the video, subscribing, and hitting the little bell icon. It helps me out a lot. It helps me get helps the YouTube robots figure out who should be liking these sorts of things. In the past, y'all have really enjoyed this as well. So please keep letting me know that you enjoy this. It helps me out to kind of know that I am doing something that people want to do. So without any further ado, let's read the Squadron 42 monthly report for June 2023. All right. AI content. Last month, the AI content team continued working on various behaviors. These range from NPC behaviors during downtime and rest, eating, exercising, sleeping, etc., to more official and job-focused behaviors from the members of the Stanton and aboard the Shubin station. So the Stanton is the UES Stanton, which is the Idris that you're aboard in Squadron 42. And the Shubin station has a name. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that's one of the locations you will be at for social and other actions. So dynamic conversations were also introduced among the deck crew, where they discussed their work to create a more cohesive atmosphere. That's something I've been hoping for to see in Star Citizen eventually, so that's good. NPCs were also implemented in several key areas to help flesh out and fill environments, while various locomotions were also added to these NPCs to make the movement and crowds feel more realistic. These range from security guards on tram stops to janitors on Shubin to hawker kiosk-based vendors that can interact with players and NPCs. For the Fight Club, speed animations were added for crowd spectators alongside high-quality fight animations. That's something they talked about in the past, that there's some sort of Fight Club. I want to say it's for one of the pirate gangs, but it could be also for Shubin Station. There was definitely a mention of this in the past. AI features. Last month, the team worked on reactions to restrained AI, which enables players to use hand and leg restraints to prevent characters from moving. They're already working on animations for zip tying hands and legs for AI. This builds on the heal and waking of downed and unconscious AI, as restraining can work in tandem with other actor statuses. There are a number of cases to deal with, including the AI being awake, unconscious, or bleeding out whilst restrained. That's interesting. That's cool. So kind of a different way of dealing with those things. I'm guessing you can do some missions where you can knock out and then restrain opponents and have them come back and arrest them, that kind of stuff. So, chat's telling me Archon Station is the name of the station. The team then moved onto a gunfight section within the campaign. This situation, the AI needs to choose cover opposite the player in a circular arena. This requires a bespoke TPS query to provide the cover and special functionality to recognize when to move to a new position. So that's just like a bespoke, specific event that happens in the game. They also continue to polish and iterate on a wide range of other functionalities to improve overall quality, including melee attacks, buddy AI, grenade throwing, grenade reactions, and attack and defend areas. So all of that stuff is functionalities that they've been talking about in the past. They've been working on them. All of those things exist. They have new melee attacks. They have buddy AI, which is, where a player and an AI will work together. Grenade throwing, they showed off like how they'll throw grenades, and then also grenade reactions, like delayed reactions versus immediate reactions. And of course, attack and defend areas, so the AI can choose to attack or defend in a location. That's all features that are now, I guess, being worked on, or now being kind of expanded on beyond just the initial implementation. On the animation side, the team continued to iterate on full animation sets to implement the different combat styles employed by the game's various factions. Very cool. We know that they were working on the Screaming Galsons and the Vandul combat animations, so they might have just different styles they're trying to go for each one. AI Tech. Last month, AI Tech finalized their work on dynamic pathfinding regeneration. As mentioned in previous reports, this feature allows dynamic paths to detect when a navigation mesh is modified and check whether it's still valid or a new path request is needed. When a new dynamic path requested, the pathing component creates and stores navigation anchors. These anchors notify the pathing component each time the mesh changes, which then checks through navigation raycast to see if the path is still valid. If not, the last part of the path is recomputed. That's something that was on the Star Citizen monthly report, which I'll put up here if you're interested in that. So a lot of this stuff is going to be shared between Star Citizen and Squadron 42, especially the tech stuff, because it's all the same engine, basically. Next, the team continued developing a feature to allow NPCs to enter and exit a ship's airlock from EVA. For this, they had to consider cases when a ship or a space station is moving or slightly rotating. They're currently working on a scenario for transporting from a ship with gravity to zero gravity by vaulting over a ledge. For tools, AI Tech continued to improving and extending functionality of the Apollo subsumption, including adding 2 new windows for the task archetypes and variable type editors. This will allow the team to better visualize and modify archetypes and variables. The other AI tool, the Usable Group Coordinator, received improvements too. This included a minor flow reactor to reduce the performance impact from bad setups to more clearly notify the designers what's wrong. Again, all of this stuff is in the Star Citizen monthly report. So, last month, AI Tech also supported existing features in the upcoming release builds. For navigation links, they created new flow graph nodes that allow the designers to disable and re-enable navigation links for a platform or object container. For example, this will enable NPCs to use moving platforms. AI vehicle features. AI vehicle features team spent the month finalizing new combat AI, enabling it throughout Squadron 42. This work has been in development for a while and improves the overall flight combat in game. That's something they've been working on for a bit. For those of you who don't know, it's been about 6 months or so. The way that AI fights is going to completely change in about a year or so. Where there's going to be different types of fighting. So some AI will stick in close, other will stay far away, some will try to run the second you try to engage them, so they'll have different behaviors, which are I think they call it the tag system, where each AI will have a tag which is associated with its behavior in combat. They already had that for FPS, and this is kind of taking that and modifying it for the AI vehicles groups, which allows for more interesting dynamic fighting, so you don't have the same type of behavior every time. The team are now tuning, tweaking, and improving the combat experience. We'll soon be taking a closer look at every single individual combat encounter and fine-tuning them all to feel great. All right, this is going to sound like copium, probably, or hopium, probably is. That's not something you do this, like if you're still building stuff out to kind of tweak every individual combat encounter. That's like a beta thing you do. It's a thing you do when you're finished with the base features and you're tweaking to improve the gameplay aspect of it. That's a polish feature, which again you don't do until after. We're used to in Star Citizen them doing a lot of polishing work for Star Citizen because they have to release it. But remember that Squadron 42 is not a released game yet. and they don't go through the same features and processes that Star Citizen does for each of the builds. So them talking about various polishes and things, especially since it's been increasing in quantity, seems to indicate that certain parts of the game are at least, or seem to be, in a beta state, feature completed, and are just working on improving, getting out bugs, and kind of tweaking the experience here and there. So let me know in the comments below if I'm high on copium or hopium with this one. It's always good to know that. And, in general, commenting is good. Animation. Last month, Animation began a deep dive into every parent asset in the game to cull broken, not needed, and poorly performing animations. They continued to work on zero-G and takedowns, with recent work on heavy denials and sedative takedowns. Sedative takedowns? So you can, shoot somebody with a sleep dart or something? They also progressed with the animation for personal carriers, animals, and janitorial behavior. The janitor behavior, crowds cheering, and player revival by AI support. Or by AI. Screw that one up. They also progressed with animations for personal carriers, animals, the janitorial behavior, crowds cheering, and player revival by AI. Does it mean maybe the animals means boids? They have mentioned in the past a dog in Squadron 42. So there is a dog in Squadron 42. If you can pet the dog, I believe was confirmed that you can, in fact, pet the dog in Squadron 42. Because they did say it on one of the monthly reports. They mentioned a dog one month, and the next month they said an animal does have interactables with it. I'm like, you can't tell me that's not a dog. So support was given to scenes across various chapters, and data from a recent mocap session was processed. Work on malfunctions and new mobiGlass animations progressed. So that's a good example, like malfunctions and new mobiGlass animations. That's not done yet. So there seems to be some aspects of Squadron 42 which are finished, but this is something that's like a basic thing that they haven't added yet. So malfunctions should be a basic feature. And of course the new mobiGlass is required, like with animations and stuff like that. So maybe, that's hard to tell. The healing and unrestraining flow now works properly too. They said that earlier about the unrestraining, so maybe players can be restrained as well. On the facial side, the team worked on idle faces for various states of the AI, including sick, punk, severe pain, punk. Idle face of punk? What? I didn't know that there was an idle phase that's just punk phase. It's not a phase, Mom. Severe pain, tired, scared, and drunk. Maybe that means puke? Maybe they meant to say puke? This will improve AI considerably, as we believe the moment you see a person's face, you naturally look at it. Instead of when that face is hidden by a helmet, you end up looking at the full body. We've also been working on facial animations for many narrative scenes. Animation team. Bring down the man face. Regarding mocap, the team prepared an upcoming narrative shoot alongside one intended to capture specific character actions and pickups. They also prepared for several gameplay mini captures. So they're still doing animation stuff in here. They're doing some pickup stuff, and I've mentioned this in the past. When you're doing pickups, it means that they've already had the general flow of what they're looking at. Now they're just going to do kind of second unit stuff, the last kind of pickups. So that's, again, hard to tell. It's more polishing, but I can tell you that there's still a lot of work to do. Audio. June saw the audio team enhancing sounds across the game. SFX designed and implemented essential assets for ambience, weapons, and UI, while Audio Code finished developing cutting-edge propagation tech to define how sound travels. July will see them move into cinematics team improvements. The dialogue team refined the character's breathing system for different health states, fixing bugs and organizing dialogue across the campaign. This also involved investigating the various health states of the player character and how breathing styles can elevate the experience. So prepare for... I'm sorry if you're watching this without headphones on at work. In July, the team are holding performance capture sessions to cover numerous scenes in the game. In preparation, they created a master document to track every piece of dialogue implemented in the game. Wow, that's a lot. All right. Engine is next one. And as I was to say, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a Starfleet engineer. I can't turn rocks into replicators. I do not know the will of the Omnissiah. I am not a engine seer. I'm but me, a simple bartender, teacher person. And I don't fully know what engine does. So forgive me if I can't explain some things, but feel free to explain them in the comments if you know what this is. Now, of course, this is also probably pretty much a recap, like a retread of what was in for the Star Citizen engine report. So if you've already done that, you can skip to the next section, which would be features. So. In June, the core engine team finished integrating the latest changes to the main development branch. This took a significant effort, but the team managed to stabilize and roll out the many major rewrites made over the past few months. Additionally, experiments were done on a more cooperative threading model to execute physics code, which should deliver general performance improvements. For generic shapes, all editor-side work for regular shapes was finished and is now with the artists for feedback. The next stage is editor support for multiple sub-engagements to allow the team to build more complex shapes out of primitive subshapes. The StarBuild P4K V2 and MEM replay system receives various improvements and new features in preparation for them rolling out to other teams. The physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes, progressed with cantilever beams for the Maelstrom editor, and investigated solver improvements for driven ragdolls. I've heard in the past people said the Maelstrom was the new damage system, but why would you need cantilever beams for damage system? That sounds like a physics engine. I'm beginning to think that the Maelstrom is a new physics engine which includes the damage system, which is something they had mentioned in the past about trying to use the core engine to do damage states more efficiently. So. The physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes, progressed with cantilever beams from Maelstrom editor, and investigated solver improvements for driven ragdolls. The IM GUI view was then implemented to allow rapid tweaking of simulation parameters for character-attached cloth, so the changes can become immediately visible. So a little bit better in terms of like managing cloth physics. The Entity System Tech team integrated the recent improvements into the main development branch. They then worked on various spawning time improvements and cost visualizations to allow for further guided loading time optimizations. Finally, async entity loading was enabled in the editor for faster startup and improved efficiency. Features gameplay. Gameplay features spent part of the month adding a new mobileglass applications, including the Galactopedia, which is a reference for people, vehicles, planets, systems, items, and everything else in the verse. As players progress, the Galactopedia will be updated with the information gathered. There you go. Wasn't it called the same thing in Mass Effect? This is the same thing. So the Galactopedia is now going to update as you go along with the game. So that's a nice little cool. So. Pokedex. Yeah, Star Citizen's Pokedex. Personal Status app now has a skills page detailing the player's abilities and how they've improved. It also includes an attributes page dealing with what items have been unlocked and how progress is going on others. That's confusing. Skills versus attributes. Because CIG calls, for those of you who don't know, there's a passive skill system they're using where like the more you run or the more you work out or the more you do something, the higher your skills will become. But I think the attributes page isn't an attributes as in actual attributes like you would say like strength or dexterity or wisdom or whatever. I think the attributes page is literally what you are given. Like what weapons you have, what equipment you own. I think that's a really confusing thing. The team also implemented a new way for designers to create custom damage maps. These can be applied to vehicles or items, giving more control over how damaged they appear over time. Following the last month's work, gameplay features further progressed with the minimap, adding markers for the player, NPCs' objectives, and more. These can now be clamped to an edge of the map if they're off-screen. Okay. Additional work was done on Character Customizer 2, exposing it to the new hair rendering tech that allows players to change their hair's base colors and highlights. There we go. Last month they did talk about a new player character customizer and creator, and that's the first mention of the new hair rendering tech, which has been in development for like 5 years. That they finally did, and they must have stopped working on it because they wanted to do a new character creator. And for those who don't know, there is a new character creator that's being built for Squadron, which will probably eventually get ported to Star Citizen. So. Features vehicle. Last month, vehicle features supported various design initiatives across Squadron 42 chapters, including work on the coil's electromagnetic gas cloud. The team worked alongside VFX and design to implement various special effects to support players' experience flying into and around gas clouds. The team also supported the smaller changes to other chapters, new features to enable the AI teams to create special set pieces, and ways for tracked view to control vehicles better. They also continued to finalize control surfaces and the new aerodynamic flight model, which were integrated into the normal ship throttle and speed control mechanisms. They also integrated new environmental effects relating to the master modes, so they now work across different flight modes. We should hopefully be at a point where the new flight model can be enabled in game-wide and tested in situ in Squadron 42 gameplay, vehicle features team. So they're now at a point where they can do master modes and flight models, the new aerodynamic flight models. And we know that master modes were being tested internally or with the PGU for Star Citizen, which may mean that that stuff is finished for Squadron by this month. But we'll know more in July's monthly report. Vehicle features further developed various UI areas in June too. To help with the flow of levels, they worked on with other teams on markers and objective systems that shows players where to go, what destinations exist, and what things are around them. It also includes new markers for quantum destinations, scanning signatures, and more. These markers can contextually enable and disable depending on the progress in the game. The team progressed with Ship Loadout Terminal. This is a physical terminal in the Idris hangar that allows players to customize their ships before flying out on missions. It's currently being integrated with the various ship teams so that they can show up alongside the player items. Multifunction displays, MFDs, also progressed. They're currently enabled game-wide and are being tested in various levels. Several issues were fixed, and the team is now focusing on unique MFDs for the scanning system to show contracts and to allow the player to look up information about things they've scanned. Okay. Currently enabled game-wide and are being tested in various levels. Okay, so MFDs are done. That's a big thing because for those of you who don't know, the MFD system was required as kind of like the base system for the new HUD, the new ship HUD, because you could take MFD portions and put them in your HUD, and they're experimenting with that idea. So yeah, so it looks like MFDs are done. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to UI and find out the HUD is done. So there's a lot of stuff that's in Squad 42 that we were told about last year that were being worked on that seem to be finishing up and are now, like tech-wise, are now being added to the game to be tested in-game, like with everything else. Focus was also given to the general look and feel of vehicle cockpits. For example, the team added new camera shakers when using the afterburner, stalling when flying with aerodynamics, and other small camera movements to improve the overall feel of piloting a ship. Lastly, vehicle features worked with the boat physics model. The core physics model works well, although the improvements and tweaks were made to improve the experience as other features were completed. Boats! Those of you who know, boats have been registered and been worked on for Squad 42 for a bit. That's the first mention I've seen them in a monthly report, though, so it's interesting. Gameplay story. June saw gameplay story continue to maintain and improve a large number of scenes across the campaign. 2 scenes were updated and to use the approved seated pose. One will now utilize the approved datapad, and another was updated to match the approved button height. Alongside this, the scene in Chapter 1 was expanded with several new encouragement animations and new dialogue. The team then supported the wider development initiative on Chapter 5, improving a character introduction at the beginning to make it more responsive. New start and end animations were added to 2 different scenes in the middle of the chapter, and a full polish was completed for the large scene at the end. You don't do that unless it's finished. You're not doing these big polishes unless like the basic functionality is done. I don't know if that could be a bad thing. It could be that CIG is wasting time on polishing something that is going to be you have to be repolished. But I don't know. It's weird. Alongside this, the team got all of the bridge operator seat setups approved. Just the aircraft control seats remains. This unblocks several scenes for cinematics and wider gameplay story team. Okay. Graphics and VFX Programming. June saw the Planet Tech team wrapping up their latest tools and working on the new water system. Water ripples can now be simulated across region borders, and further reworks to re-encode integrations with planetary atmospheric passes made the process smoother. Quantum obstacles for generic shapes were also physicalized and passed to the engine team for integration. All of this stuff was in the Star Citizen monthly report as well. The graphics team spent part of the month fixing bugs, improving the render thread, and developing the upcoming temporal upscaling system. For global illumination, a ray tracing prototype is now in progress, and work began on screen space probes. Screen space shadows are now more consistent, and canvas decal streaming issues were resolved. Gen 12 and Vulkan also received various bug fixes that impacted rendering and streaming performance. The GPU resource lifetime was restructured, and WAW hazards for render graph deferred execution are handled more efficiently too. The first iteration of entity spawning, based on mesh setup and CGAs was submitted, which is required for Maelstrom. Again, that's the second mention of Maelstrom, another mention of Maelstrom. I believe that just means that the physics engine. I believe Maelstrom is CIG's physics engine. Damage may be ported to it, but why would you need entity spawning for the damage system? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe it does, I don't know. Alongside UI Tech and other Squad 42 teams, graphics improved the performance and visual quality of the area map. The interior and FPS minimaps now use the render layers feature, which can be applied to CGA joints, skin, and CGF attachments. Incorrect UI edge cases were also resolved and now scale correctly with scene exposure. The VFX team enabled DataForge to support particle library groups in preparation for the upcoming changes to weapon effects setups. That means, like, they've talked about this in some of the other ones. Jamming, degradation of weapons and stuff like that. There's a little bit more of a wear and tear system that's being added, which is like a visual system to weapons and gear and stuff like that. A crash impacting fire-related child effects was fixed, and an entity-wide burn state can now be applied to use dirt parameters and object temperature to determine damage and glow. Glow uses a specific shader from permanent effects for game-wide consistency. Lightning was also improved. For example, lightning cascades can be timed with a new controller, and ship shields now trigger when struck by lightning. That's mostly for the coil, where you can get hit by lightning in the coil. But it also means that they can use the same system for actual weather effects in game. So, who knows? Level design. June saw level design make another significant push on Chapter 5's Shubin Archon content. This is the team's largest walk and talk level, featuring 2 NPC guides and numerous background scenes and NPCs. It's been a huge challenge to implement and another maintaining it, but we're very pleased with where we are now, level design team. They also continued the focus on Stanton and Krugery interstitial scenes. For example, they made a full pass on an emergency medical triage area in Krugery's hangar. So for those of you who don't know, the Shubin Archon Station, so Chapter 5 seems to be implying that it's mostly a social one. Squadron 42 is broken up into 3 levels, 3 types of missions. You have social, FPS, and flight. So the team breaks it up into those three subcategories. It looks like the level design team for Chapter 5 is mostly focusing on a social interaction, so it might just be not a very heavy action chapter where you're getting to know characters, character development, learning where you're supposed to go. And of course, Stanton is the UES Stanton, which is the Idris we've seen before, and the Krugeri is a Bengal carrier. So they're working on some transitions and some interstitial scenes, which can happen on the Stanton or the Krugeri. We know that the Krugeri exists because if you watch the Squadron 42 trailer, the cinematic trailer, you actually see the UES Krugeri written on one of the Bengals. It's flying through the coil. Narrative. Last month, Narrative worked closely with core gameplay development, gameplay design, and audio on player wild lines that will be used throughout the game, covering everything from generic responses to providing additional assistance during puzzles. This work was slightly accelerated as the team prepared to capture the remaining player lines in an upcoming shoot. Stop giving me hope, CIG. Stop doing that. Don't do this. You're not recording any more player lines? That's big. Elsewhere, the team continued to sync with the level designers to refine scripts based on feedback from placeholder audio. Once written, they recorded new placeholder versions so they can experience the flow in future reviews. And chat's confused puzzles. Yeah, there's going to be gameplay puzzles. Like I've guessed for a while that the rope system that they've been developing for the engine, people talk about ropes and they joke about, bondage. No, that's rope puzzles. It's like classic FPS gameplay. So yeah, we're obviously going to be puzzles. And we've actually saw in the vertical slice, they showed off a bit of the puzzles where you have to take like the power plant out of one of the systems and put it into like the base and kind of restart up power so you can get access to things. So there'll be stuff like that. As the scripts continued to solidify, the team expanded tasks to begin addressing the various text needs of the game. This included outlining the game's version of Galactopedia, determining which entries would be included from the current list and which can be crafted specifically for Squadron 42. Various collectibles, player skills, and mission performance reviews. Once the team has finished capturing and renaming capturing the remaining narrative and gameplay content, they'll focus more on these text requirements and other requests, including environmental messages and fluff scenes that will appear throughout the game to provide additional storytelling. That's, again, stop doing this to me, CIG. R&D. In June, work on atmospheric and volumetric cloud rendering continued. Transmittance profiles to their filter chains were optimized and improved to reduce noise and artifacts in Raymarch results. Further research went into temporal upscaling or upsampling of those results to produce a stable and detailed full-resolution frame that can then be composited into a scene. Tech animation. June saw Tech Animation integrate their long-awaited changes to the DNA system. This enables new head assets and provides a pipeline that will open new ways to author and customize new game content. The team then began new initiatives while they wait for further head art. This includes updating the Maya pipeline codebase from Python 2.7 to 3.7 and thoroughly testing it. This was released to the user base in June, with the team currently working through the final bugs. And lastly, aside from the usual support for locations and cinematic sequences, VFX investigated shader requirements for fire propagation. Code-wise, the fire propagation system has been in progress for a while, but has now reached the point where VFX artists can work with environmental art to decide how various locations should look when burning and burned out. Improvements and optimizations were also made for various lighting effects. So, there's a lot of dangerous talk of optimizations within the context of Star Citizen or context of game development that seem to be pointed that there are large sections of the game which are finished and are finishing up with their polishing stages, the stage upon which beta would normally happen. There are some stuff that still looks like basic stuff which hasn't been done, especially animations, but there's large parts of narrative, confirmation of things like puzzles, an entire level design based off of a walk and talk thing, or at least a significant design. We saw improvements to the cinematics, to some of the ancillary AI stuff. The entirety of the AI behavior has been updated for like flight behavior has been updated to the new system. Now it can be implemented. MFDs are done. We've got control surfaces and the new quantum boost stuff. The what do they call it? Master modes are finished and are being implemented into the game. We got some personal status apps with skills and player abilities, as well as attributes. We have audio teams working on heavy breathing, animation working on zero-G takedowns and sedative takedowns, and there's like restraining enemy combatants, or enemy AI and various other things for AI stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I think the biggest takeaway is that they finished the space-based AI behavior and the animations and other stuff around like takedowns and like restraining AI. That's kind of probably the biggest stuff that they've been talking about here. But thank you for watching. I want to know down below your thoughts on this. Am I just huffing too much hopium here? Am I mainlining too much here, or does it sound to you like CIG is worth like wrapping up a lot of sections of Squadron 42? As always, if you want to know about these things, I do these monthly. I release them to YouTube, and I'm going to start to release them to. I have already released one, but I'll release more to the podcast format, which will both be in the links below. The podcast format will be links below if you want to do this. It'll be on Spotify. So if you want to listen to this while you're driving, less heavy on the YouTube, you can do that as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. Come join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. Love to have you here for these and kind of join the discussion. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.